I'm here with my good friend and 9-time Molokai to Oahu winner and paddleboarding champion, the Waterman's Waterman, Jamie Mitchell. Jamie, good to see you again.
Yeah,
Glad
Tim.
you made it.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Long flight, yeah?
It's a long flight,
Well,
yeah.
you're here. You know, I just wanted to ask you, was this win, the 9th time that you've won the race, was it any different than the previous years? And what was it that made it special, if it was?
You know, they're all special, and they're all sort of important. But you know, it's really each year it's weird. It's like an oxymoron. It gets harder and it gets easier. It gets easier because of the experience and the amount of miles that you have under your belt.
Knowing what to expect.
Yeah, knowing what to expect and all those cliches. But then,
all right, Jamie, I just wanted to ask you about what's involved in a typical day of training for you, either in Australia or when you go to Hawaii, and you know, particularly before the Molokai race. What is that like?
Yeah, typical day in Australia when we're in heavy training would be, depending on what day it was, but say I'll get up and swim. I have a friend of mine who's a swim coach, so I'll get up and swim probably 3 to 4 miles. I get up at like 4:45 in the morning and go swim 3 to 4 miles out of the water about 7. I'll go home and load up on some food and stuff, and then sometimes I used to train 3 times a day. Now I'm just backed it down to 2. So then it'll either be a strength training session or a paddle, and then the paddles through the week are only of about an hour length, and then on the weekends is where we sort of do our race specific, or anywhere between 2 to 5 hours. So
all right.
So yeah, it's usually twice a day, and
what kind of distance do you paddle?
Through the weeks, it's just you just go for an hour, so not really the distance. It's just for about an hour, and usually in the flat water actually through the week. Just a couple of hour paddles through the week in the flat water, and then on the weekend is when we'll paddle out, do our 10, 15, 20 milers, and we'll go down to a part of the coast, whichever way the wind's blowing, and we'll just jam back. So.
Right.
So yeah, we'll these past 2 years, I've just been paddling on the paddleboard 3 times a week, and then I'll swim 3 times a week, 2 strength training sessions, and chuck in a couple of stand-up paddles just for fun, or a stand-up paddle surf, and that usually does it.
And you're training over there with the Hawaiians and living in that culture, and it's great that they've brought you in as a family member actually, and just what's your typical day like in training and your regimen and your diet? What do you do?
Yeah, earlier, like a few years back, I was probably over there 4 to 6 weeks before the races, and would do all the warm-up races. There's a bunch of little races over there, and I typically would train every other day, like usually sort of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on the Saturday either a race or a long paddle and stuff. And it was a little bit harder when you get to Hawaii. It's now the last few years of like, actually this year was the least amount of time I've spent in Hawaii. I think I got there 10 days before the race, and just so we're sort of on the taper,
right.
Now. So we arrive and all the hard work's been done, and then so we'll just the biggest thing is getting acclimatized to the weather, the heat, and make sure the hydration and all that sort of stuff's dialed, because we're coming from our winter in Australia. So
sure.
It's very important to just try and to get in the heat as much as you can without getting over tired and burnt, but you've got to get in there enough to get used to it. So,
but it's a fine line.
It's a fine line, but just getting on the water, getting used to the conditions, and so it's great. I mean, I love Hawaii. I've got a love affair with it. It's Hawaii's Hawaii. As a kid, you grow up, you see all these waves, and it's just this place you always wanted to go. And I've just been lucky that I've met some nice people, and I've some great families, and I've got some great family and friends, and now my fiance and their family and my family have all met them, and it's just nice. It's just nice to have that relationship where I feel like I can go over and I can call up, and if I get in trouble, I can do this. I've got people I can call, and
people have your back, so to speak.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's anyone that's travelled, it's really nice to have that sort of people in your life when you go to a different country. So I'm very lucky.
Oh yeah. Do you have any advice or any tips for kids that someday, the kids that see you now and they want to become a paddle monster like you?
Yeah, look, I think that paddling right now is at an all-time major popularity high, just with the stand-up thing and everything. But look, you've just got to enjoy paddling. It's one of those things. It's not like surfing. It's sort of like surfing's the cool thing, and there's not much effort that goes into surfing. Paddling, you've got to have that sort of desire, and you've got to have a real focus about it to, if you want to be successful at it and do the races like Molokai and Catalina, if you're just doing it to keep in shape, hey, that's cool as well. So, but someone that really wants to get involved and, take it to the top notch level, you got to enjoy it. You got to learn how to paddle in the flat. You got to be diverse. A lot of people these days, a lot of the Hawaiians, they're just like, I just want to paddle downwind, and then some Californians are like, I don't like the rough stuff, I just like the flat, But to be a good all-round paddler, you've really got to be diverse and be willing to learn in all types of conditions. And
absolutely,
I think in Australia we're very lucky that we sort of have that. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's real windy, sometimes it's in between, and we don't really have a choice. We just, days that we're meant to paddle, we paddle, and no matter what the conditions are like. So I've sort of, I don't freak out when it's rough. I don't freak out when it's flat. I just realise that that's part of the game. It's like a Formula One driver turning up and it's raining or it's dry. They've got to put the wet wheels on, or the wet weather wheels, or not. Like, you've got to be willing. If you want to be the world champ, you got to be willing to do all disciplines and all types of conditions.
Right on. What is the what really inspires and motivates you after all these years of giving it your all and being such a great champion, and you're really a great role model to most everyone who knows about you and what you've accomplished, and the blood and sweat and tears that it takes to do not just the Molokai race but the Catalina or any of those big races. What is it that really kind of gets you going and keeps you focused and on track like that?
I think you've got to set goals for yourself, and just, I'm a competitive person, I'm a driven person, and I just love paddling, I really do. I'm getting at the age now where it's like, I don't particularly love the training so much, but I love turning up at Molokai and looking at that stretch of water and really being excited about doing the race, and competing. It's just about competing, It's not about beating anyone or any particular person. It's just that action of you're in the race, you're competing, there's people there, you're trying to do the best that you can, and it's just that competition thing, and I've been competitive my whole life, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been doing stuff, and I've been a competitive person.
I hate to lose at ping pong.
Yeah, and I do, when I'm, it's all fun and games, like, around, but in the water, it's, it's game on, and, I'll do whatever I can to, get across that line first, and it's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and not by me, but, your friends and your family and stuff as well, to make it happen, so.
Good. Do you want to talk about any of the techniques that you employ? I mean, you taught me a couple of things years ago about catching the glide and getting that, and I assimilated that through being a surfer and trying to catch the waves, and leaning back and doing certain things that you showed me to do that really helped accelerate my paddling. Could you talk about that at all? Yeah,
there's saying practice makes perfect, and you've really got to have a feel for the water. I think a lot of people fight the water, and some people go, well, what's the fastest way to get across the channel? I go, well, I said, the person that takes the least amount of strokes is going to get across the channel faster. And they go, the least amount of strokes, wouldn't it be the fastest? I go, no, because the least amount of strokes means that you're surfing, you're connecting the bumps, and you're paddling the most efficiently. And to do that, you need time. For rough water conditions, you need time in the ocean. It's all about timing. It's about efficiency. It's about feel. You got to feel when the time's right to accelerate. You got to know when the time is to step back and let the bump go by. And and then you only get that with time in the ocean. And then the same with the flat water paddling. It's all about technique. It's more of a head down, bum up type of fitness. Normally the guy that's the fittest with the best technique will win in the flat races, and so yeah, it's nearly two different sports in one sport, but they're both just as important as each other. But that's why you find a lot of good swimmers. A lot of these guys that have won the Catalina recently. What's his name? Chad Carvin. A few years back, he was an Olympic swimmer. I think that Tyler Anderson that won a couple of years ago is a really good swimmer. So good swimmers make good paddlers in the flat water. They have the good, decent technique, and they have that swimming background. And then when you come to the ocean, I think surfers have a good background because they have that feel for what to do on a wave.
Right,
and sort
exactly.
Of,
that ocean savvy.
That ocean savvy, and then if you get a good guy in the flat like that, Tim Gare. Look at Tim Gare. He was, to this day, I think the best paddler Californians ever had, and he won Molokai, and he was a swimmer, but he spent the time in Hawaii, and he was a lifeguard, and so he had that feel for the ocean as well. So I think he's a good example of what what you can do if you put your mind to it.
Sounds good. Do you have a motto that you go by, or a philosophy that just that you employ in your lifestyle? Or
it's just, look, for me, it's like it's nothing but 100%. If I'm going to do something, I'm 100% into it. I'm going to give it my all, and that's my racing sort of motto. And then life motto is just treat other people like you like to be treated. And I think that goes a long way with with everyone. I've learnt that if you just treat people with respect, you get it back, and it's all good. Like with all my travels in the world, and I can go to most places, and always give a friend a call, and you can come crash here, or here, take my car, here, do that, and and I think that's and I would do that the same to my friends when they come to Australia. So I think that it's not a bad motto to live by. So.
I don't know what I have no idea actually what the water pollution problems are in Australia, but here in all of California, the 80% of all of the pollution problem is the pollution from the streets. Just in the city of San Diego alone, we have 70,000 storm drains, not the county, just the city, that drop into 500 miles of pipes that pour directly out into the ocean. So we have to live by when it rains, you have to stay out of the water. Yeah. It's really bad, and it's mostly just in the winter, spring, fall. So in the summertime, we rarely have beaches closed, so the tourists that come to the beach don't really so much have to experience that. But we, as surfers, when the waves are best in the winter, obviously, are hindered by that. And we're trying to find ways that we can mitigate that. But what I'm trying to do lately is to try to get people educated that to do things at home, that they can just think about the fertilizers that they use, and the dog poo and the animal stuff, and just the trash and plastics that end up in the storm drains, oil and brake pad dust from our cars. It just goes on and on. But we just have to learn to be better stewards, I think. But are there any? Do you have issues like that in Australia? Because you seem to have more land that it can leach into.
Where I'm from, particularly in Australia, we're pretty lucky that I don't think I've ever had to get out of the water from pollution or runoff or anything like that. I mean, maybe in the major cities in Brisbane, in Sydney and stuff like that, I think sometimes maybe, but it's. We're very lucky, like I think LA has more population than Australia as a whole country, so.
And that's a whole other story with the drains up there.
So, we're a lucky country. We have a big land mass, but I guess the population compared to our land mass is quite minimal, So, we're so lucky that we live where we live, and and I know there have been guys like yourself, and I think that Tom Jones just paddled the coast, trying to raise awareness about pollution as well, so it's definitely a huge thing, especially for us ocean lovers, because you want your kids and their kids to be able to do what we've done, and if we're going at the rate we're going, it's probably not going to happen, so.
All right, well, Jamie Mitchel, good friend, coolest guy I've ever met. And good luck with the paddle tomorrow. We're having a race at the Catamaran. It's the Hennessy's International Paddleboard Championships. And all the best to you, mate.
Thanks, Timmy.
All right, man.
Good to see you.
See you then.